Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Around the Block with GoodBlock. We've got a great episode for you today. We have a special guest here, Daniel Keys from EOS Nation and Pomelo Grants. We are going to talk about a very special new release, and then we are also going to talk some crypto BS later. So stay tuned, and don't forget to like this video, thumbs it up, subscribe, and hit the bell and whatever other shenanigans, involved here. So without further ado, let's get started.
All right. Hey, thanks. Great intro, Erika. Daniel Keys from Nation. We used to call you EOS Nation, but now you're on Telos, and we're your nation.telos. And of course, the lovely and talented Leah Peterson. You may know her as Katie Roman if you're an OG. Boy, I'm excited about this lineup and all the stuff, the people here and the stuff we're going to talk about. So welcome.
Hey, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me. Really excited to talk about. Sounds like you got an awesome.
I want to hear what you think. I want to hear what you think.
Looking forward to it.
Why don't you start off by giving a quick introduction to yourself and Nation, and then we got a lot of stuff to talk about.
Sure. Yeah. So Daniel Keys, longtime member of the EOS.io group community. I guess we can call it the Antelope community now. That's pretty exciting. I'm CEO of EOS Nation, or Nation, block producer on pretty much all the flavors of Antelope. Most recently, we've joined the Telos community, and really excited about that. And really excited about the progress we've come as a community. Back when I first joined the community, it was pretty tribal. We were kind of fractured into our own little different groups. I was a hardcore EOS guy. The coalition formed. I got an opportunity to start hanging out with you a little bit, Douglas, and the rest of your team as we were working on the coalition. And I thought it was a great opportunity to put the tribalism behind us and join as a block producer on Telos. And so far, the reception from the community has been amazing. It's been great getting to know the rest of the
I'm glad you did. And you're, first of all, congratulations. Just in the last few days, you nation.telos made it into the paid zone for Telos BPs. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah. We're super excited about that. The whole team give a little cheer. We're really happy to be happy.
You guys are great. I really like it's Matt Darwin, right?
That's right, Matthew Darwin. He's a superstar on the scene.
Most people don't see this, but he's in he's really kind of trying to keep everybody up to snuff. He really knows his stuff, and he's trying to prod along all the VPs who may not be as fast or whatever. And he's a great guy. I think it's been a real addition. And you guys, so we have to ultimately update to Leap, which used to be called Mandel, but never will be again. So the new Leap release is going to require coordination, and you are one of the people leading that for Telos, along with guys like Michael from EOS USA and CC from Amsterdam and a few others. But you guys are taking the lead on that work group, which is very important. So thank you.
It's great working with Michael and Ross. Not the first time I worked with them on something like this. We're doing the same thing for EOS. We did the same thing for the 1.8 upgrade. Now, I don't know how long has it been, 3 years ago? Time flies when you're having fun.
We're doing this stuff.
So this is not our first time coordinating against this.
I should mention Ross Dold from EOSphere is also part of that. And there are others. I don't mean to omit anybody, but it's great you guys are doing that. Thank you. It's a true service, and you guys are absolute experts. Were you part of the EOS mainnet launch group?
Yeah, I was around from the start. I'm not a technical guy, so I was more hands off, more participating from the community side of things, helping to track. We had a tracker tracking the progress of the launch, and so I was involved kind of in the cheering from the sidelines and tracking we're almost at that 15% to unlock the chain, and it was a cool experience, following that along.
Yeah, that was quite a time for you, right, Leah?
Yeah, it was fun. It was inspiring. Everyone was hoping to change the world with this launch, and we did. Probably not in ways we expected to, but it did. And I was a part of EOS Go at the time, so it was fun to be one of the main news sources, part of that, covering the launch and community news sources.
EOS Go is a huge part of like, I remember like that's what you would watch. If you want any information on EOS Go, actually EOS Go, I would say, is a big part of the reason I'm here. I started, you know, I was never planning on joining a block producer back in the day. I was a big EOS fan. I met Blue Jays. He's a fellow Toronto. I think he was living in Florida at the time, but I met him on the online thing, and he was the one suggesting, "Hey, why don't you start doing some meetups in Toronto?" And I was like, "Okay, let's do that." And that's actually how I met the rest of the EOS Nation team. I was hosting pub nights in Toronto. Discovered, just because I wanted to talk to other EOS nerds locally, face to face, and that's how I met the rest of the team and got invited to join EOS Nation and pursue what we're doing now.
Can you?
So a lot of credit goes to the work you guys were doing at EOS Go.
I was a very small
that.
part. Obviously, Blue Jays and Kevin started that, but it was fun to be part of their team.
That's such a cool story. So you said that leads you to what you guys are up to now. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you guys are up to now, especially regarding the Pomelo grants?
Yeah. So again, we started as just a block producer. We're doing quite a bit more than that. So now we're a block producer on many different chains. We're building Pomelo. Pomelo was going, again, speaking of the excitement of the launch, one of the things I was most excited about EOS for was that promise of a worker proposal system. And that was a big part of what it was attracting me to. Hey, we're going to have this dedicated budget where the community could coordinate with each other to build the things that we need as a community. And EOS Nation was very early involved in building a referendum system. We coordinated with some of the other block producers, EOS Canada, a few other block producers. I think EOS 42 was involved in that. There's a few of us block producers that are no longer around as
EOS
block
New
producers
York and
anymore.
things like that.
EOS New York. And Pomelo is like our third attempt now, actually, of coming to consensus with token holders to deliver some system that we could all get behind to unlock these funds that were, promised in the white paper. But actually, there was no mechanism available to come to consensus on how do we distribute these funds.
So, for anyone who doesn't know, Pomelo is a funding system on EOS, but it's for all Antelope. God, I'm so glad not to have to say EOS.io anymore. On all Antelope blockchains. But it's mostly so far has been with EOS. Although this season we're into season 3, and there's there's a number of Telos based proposals. Like our partners here producing this is Telos Culture, and they have Telos Scouts, which is like a merit badge NFT system for Telos accomplishments. Very cool. I'm excited about it. And it's currently called the EOCO Plus Coalition Chronicles, but you guys are going to have to call that the Antelope Chronicles or the Antelope Coalition Chronicles because everything's changing. So many people are going to have to change their names because of this, but let's get to that in a minute. So Pomelo, as of now, when this comes out on Wednesday afternoon, people are going to have like 12 hours left still to vote. Is that about right?
That's about right. Yeah, we got until noon UTC, 12 UTC on August 18th is what the deadline to make your final donations. And you can think of those almost as votes because you're voting on how to distribute our matching pool. A small little donation, donate 1 EOS, can end up actually getting matched quite substantially from the matching pool.
Is it true it's based on quadratic voting?
Exactly, yeah. We were heavily inspired from
Could
Bitcoin.
you explain?
Great project.
Because I don't know everyone that's watching will necessarily, this might be the first time they've heard of it. So I'd love an explanation if possible.
Yeah, so quadratic funding, basically you got a pool of funds supplied by the community or matching partners in our case, which currently is the EOS Network Foundation supplying the bulk of our matching pool. And then you have a crowdfund raise. So anybody can create a grant, put up an application, and anybody with EOS can donate to that application. And those donations get matched using the quadratic funding formula, which it takes both into account the amount of the donation, the size of the donation, as well as the number of people who have donated to that grant. Whereas it really emphasizes the democratic distribution of funding. So, $101 donations are way more impactful than one person donating $100. Reduces the impact of a whale and increases the impact of widespread community support. But yeah, I'm super impressed by the quality of the grant applications this season. Seems that they're getting better every season. Yeah, Pomelo just overall is getting better every season. Season 1, I think we only had something like 70 grant applications that were approved. We had 140 applications approved last season. We just broke, I think, 171 this season that were approved. Awesome job. You mentioned Telos Culture has got a few grants. Not only do they have a few grants, I think they raised some funds through Telos Works to help actually advertise the value of Pomelo to the Telos community.
Yeah.
They're doing an awesome job.
And they also helped a couple of other projects sign on. I know, I think, isn't Apex on
Apex is there as well.
Applicant for this season too?
Yes.
And they were instrumental in that.
Yeah,
Telos Task is there.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Shout out to Telos Task. I'm
all good things to vote for.
So yeah, I'm seeing the impact from that effort because, like you said, I'm seeing more Telos projects this season than I've ever seen before, and it's great. It's great having all the different flavors of Antelope collaborating with each other. Another thing I'll mention about Pomelo is not only is it a quadratic funding platform, it's a quadratic funding platform for public goods. So a public good is a great example of a public good is open source software, something that anyone can access for free. And by accessing it, it doesn't prevent anyone else from being able to access it. And I mentioned at the beginning of the show how, we came from a world of sort of tribalism, even within the EOS community. There, we weren't seeing a lot of people working on closed source, building things just from themselves, not sharing as much. What we're seeing develop with Pomelo, again, every season I see it more and more, is this culture of sharing, of open source. And we're seeing, people raising funds for things in season 3, building off of things that were built in season 2 or season 1 by somebody else. They're taking this building block that someone else had created and that they were incentivized to make it public. Now it's on the shelf for anyone else to grab and keep building. And the fact that Antelope all shares the same code base. Again, even if you have a team building something specific, focused on Telos, the rest of the Antelope chains can benefit from that if it's built as a public good that, there's building blocks.
Yeah, I see it actually lining up really nicely with the Antelope release, right? Because it all feels like this campaign to get rid of the tribalism and move more towards this idea that we're all part of the same ecosystem, and we all have our own little niches within that ecosystem, but it feels more cooperative and like we're here to help each other improve, we're leaving behind the old model, right?
You're right. And we have to do that, right? Because the Cosmoses and Polkadots and everything of the world are doing that. They're sort of a chain of chains or a multi-chain of chains. And if Antelope that couldn't compete in that way, then it would not. That's the phase we're moving into. But because of Antelope, we can. And I would say that cooperation that you see sort of and acceptance that you see newly all around, you see at a much higher level, even within the Antelope coalition team working together. We're seeing ways that we all benefit each other. And I felt like in the beginning, there was like this slider from competition to cooperation. And at the beginning, it was all the way over. Like it was competition went to 11, right? And once we started this, we said, okay, well, we're going to do a little cooperation on the core stuff, but nothing else. And every, like slowly, it's moving, and maybe not that slowly, it's moving more towards the cooperation, because we just see the benefits of it, and really there's very little point in us, battling out amongst ourselves when there's a much larger community we could be out there engaging with.
Right. I mean, I think about the Ethereum developer ecosystem, right? It's huge, and there's so many different things that they're working on. That I like the idea of us working towards that.
Yeah, well, we benefit from that now with Telos EVM, and when Trust EVM is launched on EOS, they will as well. We had a meeting this morning about Telos Scan and Open Block Explorer, and we're like already looking about, well, how can we make these tools useful for everybody. Daniel, any software that launches on Pomelo, does it have to be open source, or is it optional?
Not necessarily. It has to be a public good. So open source is one great way of making it a public good. We've got some stuff like free to play, as long as anyone can access it for free and to an unlimited capacity, we're pretty flexible in kind of the definition of public good in that regard. We also, it's not just software. We've got media, educational content, articles, journalism, art, lots of different things could qualify as a public good. But in the context of, Antelope and blockchain and all that stuff, open source software is a great example of one of the ways things get approved as a public good. Like a lot of times we'll have somebody who is, again, they have a private product that's not a public good, and they come through Pomelo and they try to get a grant approved for that. And they, their first attempt, we got an approval process where we'll send it back, hey, you don't quite hit the bar, we'll send you an email, action required, teach you a little bit about public goods, we'll direct you to our article, and we'll see that, again, you start with an application for a private thing. It has fees, it's excludable, but then you learn, okay, what's the public good within the thing I'm building? This private product I'm building requires all these different components. Maybe if I make this component that I'm using general purpose and open source, others could benefit it because there are other use cases that need the same mechanic. And then they update their application to focus on that building block, and then they're successful in getting approved. And then again, I mentioned we're seeing, and then the next season, someone takes that building block and incorporates it into their project.
That's awesome. All right, so Daniel, people have a few hours left to vote. It's not too late. What projects are you supporting, or what projects would you suggest? Give me a top three, other than of course Apex and Telos Task and Telos Scouts. Which ones are you excited about?
Ooh, that's a tough one. So project specifically, I like to. I'm a little bit strategic with my vote. Like, so there's a difference between what are my favorite projects versus what are the ones maybe that haven't gotten a lot of support yet that I'd like to see get more support. And because with the magic of quadratic funding, you can actually have quite a bit of impact to those, to all those grants. So some that I like that are perhaps not in the top, maybe closer to the top. There's the Bywire News, creating lots of great content. There's a grant. The beauty of open source public goods. There's a grant called Track Pomelo. They want to build something kind of on top of Pomelo, separate to Pomelo, help the EOS community track the progress of grants that have come through Pomelo, create a portal where you can view and vote. And so as a kind of a third party way to validate that people who are doing things on Pomelo actually deliver.
That's something that we see. I think any funding I'm supporting that one as well. I think any funding system needs that for its health, right? And so that's great. Maybe they'll cover Telos works as well moving forward. Who knows? I mean, these things are going to be more and more like opportunities to enhance each other. I voted for,
Yeah.
so season 1, I was one of the top givers, even though I'm sure that no one expected that, under the name GoodBlock. And I got the little NFT. Season 2, I'm not quite sure why I missed it. I think I had a lot going on then, but I'm making up for it in season 3, and I'm going to try and get into one of the top 10 givers this time. And I like things that are either that already are multi-chain and can see Telos as part of it. Of course, I think I got all the Telos only ones. I got like T-Starter was on there too. But I also do it kind of strategically like you, because I want people to understand that this is something that Telos can be doing, and hopefully encourage those that get those to go, oh, maybe our service, even though we hadn't pitched it this way, maybe our service can work on all Antelope chains as well. So that's my hope. Anyway, thank you for bringing that to us, and really all your work on Pomelo and just building the funding opportunities for the whole Antelope ecosystem.
Well, yeah, thanks for participating. It's great. Again, love seeing the Telos community participating, and thanks for the opportunity to share.
It's great timing.
Okay,
let's move on to our main dish here, because this is a big story. So this is airing Wednesday, just after the announcement of the new name for EOCO. So, which that's probably going to be the last time I say that. So if you're wondering what we're talking about, this Antelope stuff, EOCO is now Antelope. The old name had to do with Block 1. It was still, they never gave up control of it. Even if they had, I think we would have needed a new name, because they had really run its reputation to the ground. But we want to express how this is a whole new day, and it's a new chance for all of these chains. So we named it Antelope, and it's great to be able to say finally.
So I think the name is really fun. It implies a lot of, things, speed and all this. What's how long have you guys been in the process of trying to do this name change?
A long time. I'll take that, because there was a committee for the branding committee, and it's more than just a name change. It's what are the values, what are the differentiators, where do we position, who are our customers.
Yeah, almost taking on the role that B1 didn't bother to or took with them, I guess.
Yeah, they never did a good job. They did a horrible job. I mean, it's not a consumer friendly. They said they wanted a consumer or a friendly, mass adoption friendly thing, but they didn't pick a name for it. Antelope, I feel, is it's kind of like Apple or Amazon or Alphabet. It's like it starts with an A, but it's also a big thing that people are familiar with. But it gets its actual meaning from whatever meaning we put into it. So we hired a group called Word to do the branding, and we had a team of 4 people. Justin Guidici of the Telos Foundation was the lead of it, but it included Eve LaRose and Aaron from Greymass and myself, and we spent countless hours working on this really hard and figuring out what we wanted. And then we would bring, at key junctures, we would bring things back to the whole group to vote on. And here we are. Super exciting. And it actually aligns up really well, because we are also releasing new code. So, and that code was called Mandel, but there was always a code name. But, we didn't want to tie things to the old branding, because what would be the point? But Mandel was just kind of a placeholder always. But now that software is called Leap, and we just think it's a much better name and everything. I have a little video that we can link to that is a 4-minute video of why we picked things, how it went, and everything. So we can talk about that more there. But yeah, it was a subgroup, and then we brought it back to the group, and it took a while. It was a lot of work, but I think in the end we came up with something really good, really surprising. Signals a clean break, signals where we want to go, which is we want to leap ahead.
I think you guys did a great job. I think it's way friendlier, like you said. EOSIO, it's what are we, robots?
Yeah.
So it's nice having a friendly, warmer kind of And I liked it even more, when I saw the logo to go with it. I don't even know if I saw the final one. I saw one of the iterations. By the time this is out, I'll have seen the final
Well, I
version. I'm
appreciate that
excited.
everybody within the coalition gave us the freedom to really move with this and bring things back and really engaged. I think it's good. I think whatever you think, it's probably very surprising right now because it's intentionally entirely different from what there was before. There's no facets, no chestahedron facets or anything like that, and that's intentional. But I think that as people get used to it, they'll like it a lot better, right? And as we engage, one of the in part of this process, we realize that one of the groups we want to engage with is developers, wide world developers who aren't blockchain developers yet. That's one of the greatest growth areas for us. That's what we'd already identified that as a great growth area for us on Telos, and so then we brought that into the branding team and said, look, these are who we really need to get because there's millions of them, right? And they haven't picked their side yet. They don't already know a language, so let's be friendly to them.
You and Daniel keep saying we, coalition. What are you talking about? Who's we? Who's the coalition? What's going on there?
Yeah, Daniel, you want to take that?
Sure. Yeah. So we talked about the tribalism at the start of the show, how every chain was kind of doing its own thing. The EOS community kicked Block One to the curb, and we were facing an existential threat where, hey, we lost the treasury. What we thought was going to be the treasury, we never really had it to begin with, but it really put if we want to succeed, we're going to have to collaborate. We're going to have to join forces with all the other folks in the ecosystem who are using this software too. And that's driven a lot by Eve and the ENF to coordinate, get us all together on these initial calls. And I was fortunate to join those early calls and got a chance to collaborate for the first time with folks from Telos, folks from UX, folks from Wax, and start putting that tribalism behind us so that we could work together on what are these common things we all share and how do we get it funded and how do we build a roadmap that we can all kind of get behind and drive this forward.
I joined later, so really, my hat's off to Eve. He did a great job, and he used to be in charge of. It was just about a year ago, last week. He used to be in charge of Nation, and he left that, and I think he brought you up to there so that he could start this. And I didn't. So there were people involved from Telos, Jesse and Kirsten and Justin. So Telos was already involved. To be honest, I wasn't involved because, to be honest, I didn't think it would work. Based off of the experience from the EOS mainnet launch group, and after a while, three different people independently said to me that I should get involved, and I'm like, okay, well, that's the universe trying to tell me something. I respect all these people, so I did. So I joined later, but in my perspective, they hadn't actually, there was a lot of wheel spinning. I don't know if that is your perspective, but yeah,
100%. It's hard coordinating all these different independent. We all have our own things that we're trying to accomplish, our own ideas, our own level of appetite, our own level of capacity. I think capacity was a big issue. But I think you joining Douglas was a huge catalyst. I loved seeing the initiative you and the rest of the Telos team, I think was critical to driving our progress forward in that group. And again, that was a big part of what, maybe I should, maybe EOS Nation should join Telos because, I appreciate the work you guys are doing.
So the four that make up Antelope Coalition right now are EOS, Telos, Wax, and UX, and everybody brings something. One of the things that Telos brought that we're talking about already is we had almost 4 years of running a foundation and running a distinct core developers group, and though we were small, you learn a lot in 4 years, and we were able to bring that to it. When I came in, and of course, I didn't. everyone, at the risk of sounding like an opera singer warming up, me. Everyone's hero of their own story. When I got in there, I was like, oh God, my worst fears are coming true, because this is exactly like the EOS mainnet launch group. And like, I was on a call. I remember like there were two things, like something that had already been approved 2 weeks ago, and they were like opening it up for discussion again. I was like, and it happened with like a couple things. And when the second one started, I said, look, guys, you cannot do this. This is not going to be functional. If you want this to work, and I'm putting my time into this, and I want it to work. So we have to do this. And so by the next meeting, I said, what are the goals? What are the milestones? What's everything? And there wasn't a document. So I quickly made a group with Eve and a couple other people, and I brought in a document that I wrote, and I said, I think this is what we should do. At least now you have, maybe it's totally wrong, but maybe at least we have a draft, and let's figure it out. And through that, and it's me doing what I'm doing now, talking a lot, but also trying to move it forward. I think I just bored people into submission eventually, but we did we did get him forward. Like we actually did get something forward, and yeah.
And it was necessary. I think without that, again, we would, who knows how long the wheels would have
until people gave up. I think it was spinning in mud, so it just gets deeper in mud, doesn't go forward at all. I think of it like, I think of it sometimes as the Jerry Maguire moment, because before anyone else joined, Eve was actually getting very frustrated. I mean, it's on a call, people recorded. He's frustrated, and I was like, man. And just selfishly, because this is a great deal for Telos, it's a great deal for everybody else, right? It's a great deal for EOS too, but Telos gets, because of our value right now, we don't have to put a lot of funding in. We put it in relative to what our market cap is. So as a result, we put in like 8, 9, 10% of everything, but EOS puts in like 75% of everything, and the other two chains make up the balance. And those numbers aren't perfect, but they're pretty close. And so we get all of this development for a real discount. And so for me, it's like, okay, that's a great opportunity, because otherwise we have to do it ourselves. And also, I really wanted to make sure that we were being valuable to the EOS community, to the whole thing, right? So that would still be an option. So I saw that was about going away, and I was like, oh man, I don't want to lose this, and we're not going to get this chance again, because something like this has to happen. So I just I had been talking with the guys, and I knew that we were all favorable. So I just sort of said, nope, we're going to join you if EOS does it, because Eve was like, if this doesn't work out, then EOS has to do it on its own, and we're not going to wait any longer. And I said, no, you're right. I said, Telos is going to join you. And then the next week, and then that kind of unstuck things. And the next week, Wax and UX joined, and things like Proton decided not to join. They're free to join in the future, but as are anybody. But yeah, that was kind of I think that was a big moment. It was like that meme where like one guy's dancing on a hill and looking crazy, and people are just looking at him like he's insane. And that's Eve. And then suddenly I'm like, oh, I'll dance, whatever. And then everybody comes in. And I actually think that was a great moment for Antelope. And I think it's nice not having a bunch of people who aren't willing to do the work or put the money up. Like feeling like they should have a say, and free riding. So yeah, I think it's a huge development, and I think we will look back in time at how Antelope began and restarted the story.
Well,
and
this is all going to be a Netflix documentary, and I would love to hear more about the coalition.
There's a Pomelo grant for the EOS story, and those guys better include Telos, because that's a part of it.
For sure. I would love to hear more. The coalition is of interest to me. It's even though you guys are very public and put out public recordings to be transparent, I haven't watched any of them yet, but just hearing you guys talk about it, I think that would be a great subject for a future episode as well.
Well, we'll have everybody in. We'll have Guillaume in from UX, and we'll have Lucas in from Wax, and we'll definitely have Eve, and we'll have a bunch of people as future guests. So
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. And now it is time for us to hear from Nathaniel for Moss's Market Minute. We are going to give Nathaniel 60 seconds on the clock to give us news and updates from this week. And Nathaniel, you have 60 seconds. Go.
So it looks like the market is actually continuing to rise. We may be in a spring, but beware that it might be a false spring. The numbers are rising very much, but also the apprehension is also rising. So bear traps are always around. So be careful that there might be some losses there. In crypto news specifically, Ethereum is about to do its merge, and EOS is about to go to Antelope, which is changing over to the environmentally friendly proof of stake. So you might want to take a look at those crypto prices to make sure that you might want to invest in those crypto prices to make sure that you can get in while it's early and while it's hot, because environmentally friendly is the theme of the next decade. So by the bills that have been passed recently. So that's my minute.
All right. Thanks so much.
That was a lot in 60 seconds. Wow.
Great. All right. Well, now it is time for us to talk about crypto BS of the week. And this week we do have a pretty huge topic to talk about. I'm sure most of you have heard about what's going on with Tornado Cash. If you have not heard about what's going on with Tornado Cash, essentially USDC is blacklisting some Tornado Cash accounts. Douglas, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So first of all, Tornado Cash is a smart contract on Ethereum, and it's a mixer, right? Similar to CoinJoin or something, where anytime it basically takes your Ethereum and mixes it all up with other people, so it's very hard to tell whose is whose. And it's been used by many people for privacy, because blockchains are inherently open, and it's really no one's business what you do. And within that privacy, it's also been used by some people who've done rug pulls and money laundering and things like that. Because of that, the U.S. government last week, about a week ago now, as this airs, they designated it a sanctioned entity. It's the first time a smart contract has been called a sanctioned entity, the same as Russia or North Korea or Iran in the U.S. And U.S. persons cannot do any business to it. So and then there have been a lot of other interesting things have happened. So because of that, they told Coinbase and Circle and all these companies, if you're a U.S. company, you have to sanction these things. So yeah, like you said, they blacklisted things. A lot of people don't know accounts. A lot of people don't know that that USDT and USDC have a blacklist feature, so that they can say to account, nope, and they can have their coins frozen. Which is one big, thing against those coins. Yeah. You've got a bunch of USDC, and then you're about to do some transaction you need to do, and boom, you get your accounts frozen.
Do you think this could be related to just in general, the idea that like governments are trying to implement stable coins or like USDC and stuff like that? So they're saying now, well, there have to be regulations on what we can do and use with those because of the fact that we're talking about trying to adopt them?
I think that there's increasing regulations. I think that's all part of it. I don't know why this came at this time. It's very ham-fisted in my view. Like they also took down, like, I think 3 or more of the Tornado Cash devs got their GitHub accounts removed, and and one of them just got arrested. Yeah. I think Erika, somebody had some information on that. So it happened in Amsterdam, and basically this guy got arrested for writing software, open source code that is used by some people for this mixing service for money laundering. They say $7 billion, I think, which makes them, way, way, way less than Deutsche Bank. And those guys have not been arrested, to my knowledge. They just HSBC. Yeah. So
what are they? So what's just in? So the Deutsche Bank one. So 3 years ago, they're saying it was 80 billion worth of Russian money that was laundered through a branch.
Just one thing, right? Yeah. There have been multiple things, and they paid multiple fines.
Yeah, and then just even within the last month, they settled for $7 million on another money laundering case. So it's. I mean, are they just too big to fail, as some people might say, or they can just afford to pay the $7 million fine? Why isn't the same thing happening there? Right.
Right. It's ridiculous, and yeah, go ahead.
So for clarification, this dev that got arrested, did the Netherlands say they're arresting him for creating open source code, or do they think he was actively helping launder money? It just reminds me of what was that called? Silk Road back in the day with Bitcoin, where one of their creators got arrested because they had text messages of him telling drug dealers like, hey, this is what you can do to use this to sell you. Right. So I'm wondering if this is at all remotely justified or not, because arresting someone just for creating open source code in the US would seem like if it happened in the US would be a freedom of speech issue.
Yeah, it's protected speech.
But in the Netherlands, it's not. But the Netherlands did what they did because the US sanctioned. It just seems really confusing. I feel like we don't have all the facts.
Well, they haven't really, to my knowledge, they haven't released the reason yet. But like you mentioned Silk Road, which was Ross Ulbricht, who's still in prison and will be for life unless something's changed. Now, although he also did make hits on people, he tried to get people killed who were problems for him. So he's not quite as innocent as he would like to say, but I would say that people who actually do murder other people are not in for life, right? They have some hope of getting out of prison. So I think there's really asymmetric enforcement of anything related to crypto. I mean, we see that in Ross's case, Charlie Shrem, who went to first guy to go to jail for Bitcoin. He got railroaded. Ross probably deserved what he got, but it was for a lot of other things and he knew what he was doing. But he probably was sentenced far too harshly, and he's been in jail almost 10 years now and no hope of getting out, which is kind of crazy. All
for stuff that's happening on the regular in traditional banking anyways.
None of the Terra Luna guys are in jail. None of the, it's like with the 2018 crash where one guy did a year of jail time. But even though the whole, US and world economic system got broken by shady stuff that they were doing.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're one of them, if you're in the club, then, slap on the wrist. If you're a coder, then apparently you're going to get arrested. But for what I can see so far, the guy, maybe they know that he deployed it and they're saying that. But again, there's totally legitimate uses for this, right? When there's a school shooting, somehow the gun companies are unsuable, right? It's basically this guy created a machine that could do a lot of things. And one of those things is money laundering, right? So should he be jailed for that? I sure don't think so. But it's not even effective, right? It shows how the government really doesn't even understand that this stuff happens because
they just want to make examples.
Yeah, it's already deployed on Ethereum. It's immutable, so that smart contract will always be there. And no, even if nobody runs a nice, pretty front end, you can just use it through Etherscan. You can make your trades, right? I mean, Daniel, do you think that these guys really understand what they're
Do you
doing?
think that's why GitHub also made the effort to even delete those developer accounts, though, right? It's just to totally wipe that code off of trying to scrub it from like existence, or I don't know. It's
well, which
not
is
like
why
it's not still out there.
It's well, the code's out there. I guarantee you the code.
That's what I mean. It's obviously still out there. So what's the point of scrubbing GitHub accounts?
Make it more difficult, but like it's kind of futile. I think, whack-a-mole. They can keep whacking. At the same time, from what I understand, they're also not just sanctioning the smart contract, but any accounts that have interacted with the smart contract. And now what we're seeing is people just sending 1.1 Ethereum to whatever, celebrity doxed accounts from Tornado Cash are now on the list.
So it was actually an account, I believe, that was from an old hack, and it just had Ethereum sitting there. So they're sending like 0.1 Ethereum to all kinds of people. So now those guys, those people
get in trouble, or
no, it'd be sent. I can't remember who they got sent to, but like just like Snoop Dogg gets sent 0.1. He's a huge Ethereum NFT owner, one of the biggest. So I'm sure he got sent it. They started out with people with ENS, Ethereum name services,
Twitter,
accounts, but they're going to do it. They've got lots of funds, and it's just they're just poking a stick in the eye.
And then those accounts get blacklisted. So if you're holding any USDT or USDC in one of these accounts that received a random fraction of Ethereum from Tornado Cash,
you didn't send it, but
control over.
Now you're
sending you tokens.
Now you're sanctioned.
Now you're sanctioned.
Now I think they just sanctioned the accounts. Good question is, how many times do you have to transfer your funds from one account to another? If I have a sanctioned address, right? These are actually addresses. If I send it to another address that I control, is that address sanctioned? If I do it 100 times, are all of those sanctioned, and how do they keep up with it? Right.
Right.
Because they probably have a list.
This particular token moved from this account to this account.
Yeah. And I mean, you just move it 100 times, move your stuff 100 times, and then put that in, and then trade that to something else. And now it's now it's somebody else's account. I mean, it's just futile for them to try to do that, to try and beat anybody who knows how to use it. And also, hey, like how you can use the program already. The smart contract is out there. A dozen people could put out new Tornado caches, right? And then they'd have to and I bet that happens. I bet you'll see a dozen Tornado caches, and even, with the same, because it's easy to do, and people will just deploy it, anonymously, and then they're done. Or people could deploy Tornado Cache on Telos EVM, right? On any of the EVMs, you can deploy it, and I think governments are going to have a really hard time staying caught up with all the ways that crypto people can push back.
We all have a right to privacy, but it's gotten to a point where wanting privacy makes me seem suspicious, and you just get to assume that I'm guilty because I want privacy, right? So it's there's not really a whole lot we can do about it, it feels like. Well, and there's lots of bills right now even in the U.S. Congress that are trying to make sense of things, and some are actually pretty good for us. Some not so much. I think the IRS just got a really, really nice chunk, and part of it was specifically to cover digital asset monitoring and compliance. So,
Well, that's a good point, Erika, because what does this mean? Because Daniel, you're in Canada, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah.
You're free. Yeah. None of this applies to you.
You're so much freer than us Americans. But
they got their own stuff.
Yeah, I know. But what does this mean for Web3? Like, we are 4 people in the Web3 space. This is all of our careers, right? We've chosen to go all in on this, what does this make each of us, I think, individually feel, and what our next steps could be? Because this is now, at least I feel, a threat potentially to my livelihood, my ethics, values, the way of life, the path I've chosen. So, and I know three of us are in the US, so what we can do or what we think we should do will probably not be, for me, as interesting as Daniel. What's the sentiment in Canada, and like, what do you think fellow Canadians can do that are into Web3 to help push back against these kind of ill thought out plans happening globally?
Yeah, I would say just keep building, keep advocating for, decentralization, and I'm just because I'm in Canada, I'm not free and clear. Just we had this developer in Amsterdam get arrested. He's not in the U.S., so I don't think necessarily being in Canada protects me. We've got Pomelo. We've got projects raising funds on Pomelo for privacy related things like Zeos.
I supported that one too.
So
twice now.
Yeah. So these kind of stories make me think about, okay, how does it raises the urgency for us to make Pomelo more censorship resistant. Right now, it's not nearly as much as it could be or down the road. And in the long run, they're shooting themselves in the foot too, because the jurisdictions that are going to succeed in the long run are the ones that are open to innovation. If we're outlawing every little piece of innovation, the places that are more open to allowing this stuff are gonna go ahead. The U.S. will fall behind on innovating in this.
Like, when did stifling innovation space ever make you ahead of the game, right?
And let's push. So let's push for equitable enforcement. So until you arrest the CEOs of Deutsche Bank and HBSC, right? Stay away from Ethereum and Antelope developers. You don't get to touch us until you do what you're supposed to do with those guys. No more slap on the wrist. Oh, you did $80 billion. Here's your $7 million fine. Sorry, not okay, right?
And that's part of the irony, is that blockchain can make things more transparent and can help trace back to, and they're using kind of the Web3 call for transparency and openness and truth against us. They are the worst. For me, I think part of it for me and how I think about fighting back when I've been lately reading about it is to put Pomelo fits so well into this, but to use more crypto for good. And what I mean is that I think the crypto space, for right or wrong or reasons with the media, whatever I tend to have it be nefarious reasons, but that might not be the case. Ignorance is also a good reason this keeps happening. But I feel as users of Web3, we need to push out the very best in our communities to get funding and to get the spotlight. Pomelo does that great, because it's so easy to paint Web3 in the media as a money laundering machine, rightly or wrongly, because there are so few real projects that are doing things to help people with housing issues, to help people with medical issues, to help communities that are trying to get voting transparency or trying to change the world. refi is a huge thing in crypto right now, which is regenerative finance. And I think we would be one way of protesting and pushing back is through the media and putting out these really positive stories, so that the general public isn't just associating crypto, blockchain, Web3 with these ideas of scammers and people that are just out for the money, and these, for better or worse, crypto bros, as they like to call them, right? And we have to show we're so much more than that. So that's what I'm
right. What is there's that podcast, the Green Pill podcast, they talk about being regens and not degens.
Until people see more positive uses, all they're aware of are these the rug pulls and the scams and things like that, and they think that's everything just because we haven't put enough positive stuff out.
So
One
Pomelo,
positive-
we need to market it. We need to market it even more.
All right. Well, I think it's time for us to wrap up this episode. Thank you, Daniel, so much for taking the time to chat with us today. Where can people find you and learn more about what you're up to and what Nation and Pomelo are doing?
Sure. You can find me on Twitter, Daniel_Keys. That's Keyes. Check out pomelo.io if you want to check out all the grants. Again, if you're watching this now, you maybe have a few hours still to donate to some projects. We link to all of our socials in the footer there. We're on Discord, we're on Telegram, and you can check out our block producer website. It's a little stale, but check it out, eosnation.io. We've been focusing most of our energy on Pomelo and other things, but you can find more about us there too.
And your nation.telos for voting purposes on for
Vote for nation.telos. Yeah, appreciate all the votes. We're again super happy to be a standby now and looking forward to continuing.
Yeah, I'm glad
you're here.
The ranks.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thanks, Douglas and Leah. We'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, well, real quick, don't forget, you can also go to antelope.io to learn about Antelope. And while you're out there voting for a nation, if you want to throw GoodBlock TLS on there, no one here would mind. We'd all appreciate it. So
Awesome. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.